Yeah. Okay. Anything else I need to do while I'm at my post?
Good morning. The February 27th, 2025 meeting of the Charter Authorization Panel is called to order. I would like to welcome everyone to the Arkansas Department of Education and ask that you please silence all your electronic devices. The goal is to facilitate a fair and responsible hearing. So therefore, I ask that each person speaking, please state your name and title each time you speak into the microphone for the record. I ask that you continue to speak clearly into the microphone throughout the presentation for the benefit of the panel, the audience, and the viewing audience. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and a transcript of the meeting will be posted on the DESE website. Okay, so again, good morning. Good morning to our panel members. We have some here, and then we have also two of our panel members that are online today that will be here for the meeting. So we do have a consent agenda before you today, and I will give you an opportunity to review that. Let me know if you have any questions, and then if you don't, then I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. It's also in your book.
Motion to accept.
Okay, I hear a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, motion by Dr. Bacon, second by Mr. Baldwin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The agenda is accepted. Motion passes. Okay. Mr. Daniel Schultz, is he here?
He's not here today.
Okay. I didn't think you looked like Daniel Schultz, but I was just gonna.
Good morning.
Okay.
Brianne Franks here on behalf of legal. Today, the general operating procedures for the panel are the chair will swear in all parties with the exception of attorneys representing the parties. The applicant or charter school has 20 minutes to present, and the chair may grant additional time if necessary. Opposing parties have the same 20 minutes to present to the panel, and the chair may again grant additional time if necessary. And the applicant or charter school then has 5 minutes to respond or rebuttal. The chair may then grant additional time if necessary. Are there any other questions for legal at this time?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so our first action item that we have for consideration is the extension of the 2025 charter school renewal dates. And Mr. Wood, if you come forward to do the presentation.
Dustin Wood, DESE, State Director of School Choice. Thank you, Dr. McMurray. The Department of Education is requesting a one-year blanket renewal for 10 charter schools that currently have contracts. So their charters are set to expire currently as of June 30th of this year. The department is asking for a one-year automatic renewal for these 10. They are Arkansas Virtual Academy, Hope Academy, Adventure Academy Online, Centerpoint Academy, Fountain Lake Charter High, Mountainburg Middle Brain Academy, Mountain Home High, Rivercrest Junior High, Southside Charter High, and Southside Junior High.
Okay, right. So panel, do we have any questions for Mr. Wood? Do we have any concerns about doing a batch vote on all of the schools at one time?
I was going to remind the panel that if there are any concerns about any one or more of these 10, that of course the panel has the ability to pull them out and take a batch vote on those specifically and have further questions later, or you can take a batch vote on the full 10 if you so choose.
Okay. So with that additional explanation, are there any questions or concerns? Dr. Bacon?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with this process, and so just making sure. I know you all have talked with legal, and this is a thing that we can do to just sort of batch approve these 10 charters for 1 year while you work through this new system.
I'll ask Ms. Franks to come forward.
Not a star. Legal has reviewed, and we do agree that we are able to renew at this time. Renewal is a general process that the panel does generally. We see no legal issues with this.
Thank you. Mr. Baldwin or Ms. Newton, do you have any questions or any additional information that's needed at this time?
Right. I wanted the rationale. I don't remember this happening before, and I just wondered the rationale for the blanket request for renewals for 1 year.
So the rationale is that the department is in the process of developing a charter performance framework. And by doing this way, we will have everyone on the same page and operating within the same time frame together, rather than having some who would not be on the charter performance framework and some that would not.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, I do have one question, and it's a probably pretty simple one, but I just wanted to ask if these schools that are on this list have been notified that we're anticipating approving this 1 year renewal, and are they good with that?
Mr. Baldwin, we did send an email several days ago letting them know that they had two options. One, that they could go forward with a 1 year blanket renewal and be a part of that, or optionally, if they would so choose, they could go through the full renewal process this year. We have not had anyone say that they would not opt for the 1 year automatic renewal. There are a couple of campuses that we've not heard back from, but we'll take their silence as consent, I suppose. But everyone else has said that they would opt for the 1 year. And I would include that, I would just very quickly include that we do have a campus on this list who is not sure if they are going to renew or not, and they are opting to go ahead with the 1 year automatic renewal to keep their options open to later decide how they're going to proceed with their charter school.
Okay. If there's not any more questions, then I'm going to, for the record, read each of the names as we have as a part of our motion to make sure that we are clarifying that it's just for these schools, and then I'll be ready to accept a motion. Okay. So for accept a motion on the DESE request for a blanket extension of the charter schools renewal date for each of the listed charter schools. And those are Arkansas Virtual Academy, Hope Academy, Adventure Academy Online, Centerpoint Academy, Fountain Lake Charter High, Mountainburg Middle Brain Academy, Mountain Home High, Rivercrest Junior High, Southside Charter High, and Southside Junior High for 1 year from June 30, 2025 till June 30, 2026. So I will now accept a motion to accept DESE's request for this blanket extension.
I move we accept DESE's request for this extension as you described.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Dr. Bacon. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. If you could please go to your voting sheets so that we could record our votes.
Madam Chair, I don't have access to my voting sheets. That's a long story, but anyway, I just say I voted in favor of the motion to allow Because this, change allows, for better operating efficiency around renewals of charters.
Okay, I got it, that's fine, so we're good with that. Do you have access to your voting sheets? Okay. So I will give everyone else a chance to get their responses into the voting sheets, and then we will go around and announce how we voted. Yeah, mine is too. Mr. Wood, currently our voting sheets are in view only, so we don't have editing access.
I'm sorry?
Currently our voting sheets are in view only, so we do not have editing access.
Oh, well. That should have done it, I believe.
Do you have access now? My sister says it's view only. Hard to say, I might just tell you my answer and say type it. Okay, sorry for the delay. We were trying to make sure we all had access to the voting sheets. So I will start with Mr. Baldwin. Do you want to please let us know how you voted?
Yes, thank you. I vote in favor of the one-year contract renewal for the charter schools indicated on the renewal request. This allows all charter schools to be in sync with the upcoming performance standards.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Baldwin. Dr. Bacon.
I voted for the motion due to my confidence DESE will develop an effective and efficient tool for approving and renewing charter schools with appropriate accountability measures.
Okay. And Ms. Newton, we know that you said you're having difficulties with your voting sheets, but would you please verbalize your vote?
Yes, I voted for the motion as this process allows for better operating efficiency around renewals of charters.
Thank you. And I support DESE's request to grant a one-year extension to the charter schools on the renewal list for 1 year. This will allow time to ensure all policies and procedures are in place for all charters in the future to move forward. Okay. Okay. So the motion passes. So next we have on our agenda Friendship Aspire Academies Arkansas Amendment Request. Dr. Smith, will you please come forward to do the presentation?
Good morning, everybody. Daryl Smith, Assistant Commissioner for the department. At our last meeting, Friendship came before you for an amendment request to amend their charter and to add a school to their charter. We had some questions about some issues with some waiver requests and some things of that nature. Those have since been resolved. We have had several meetings with Friendship, and now we've resolved this waiver issue that, as far as the accountability standards as well as some of their cap issues. And so at this time, the department feels we're ready to go, and that I know there's still maybe additional questions that need to, but we do request that maybe we can forego the formal presentation and maybe just go back to straight to questions, since there's not a lot changing from that point from last week.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Before we get started, I need to swear in all those that will be speaking on behalf of the charter today. So all those giving testimony today on behalf of Friendship Aspire Academies Arkansas, please stand and raise your right hand. Okay. Are you with? This first one. Okay. Do you swear that the testimony or statement you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I did do it.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Tran, you can begin with your presentation.
Hey, how are you guys doing again? Nice to see you.
Good.
Hopefully this time goes better. But I just want to start off by saying we had some great news yesterday. So yesterday, the OEP report came out from the University of Arkansas, and Marvel Lane was rated the #1 in the Southeast region in high growth or ELA. And I think that's the first time that they have ever received that in its history. So we're doing a lot of work there.
Very good. Congratulations.
Yes,
I'm
I
very
just
glad
want to
to
let you
hear that.
guys know
can have a
about that.
Clap on that one.
I thought, so the team's been doing a lot of work, and so that was great news. But pretty much what we're here today is to ask what we asked last time. We spoke with the department already, so the only waiver request that we're asking for this time is just for whatever we have at the charter. So we're not asking for any other type of waivers. I know some questions were asked last time in regards to class size and as well as the counselor. We do utilize the class size waiver at some of our schools. We do have class sizes of 27, 28, just depending. And then if we have a teacher, then we can go and see whatever financially is possible to reduce the size.
Okay.
But over at the charter schools, at the new school for dyslexia, our class size, we try to keep it small,
Okay.
because that was the intent, to ensure that every single student get the one-on-one session that they needed. And I know last time you also talked about the counselor. Because being it's a small school, at this moment in time, the principal acts as the counselor, because we have a large span of K to 8. And I think this year we had like about 6 to 7 students in 8th grade. So it's not abundantly a lot of kids to have a full-time counselor on staff. So that's why we use the principal. Now, moving forward, if we do have a lot, when we do increase enrollment, we can look at that to have an additional counselor. But at this moment in time, the principal acts as the counselor. She knows them. She's been with them. Or at this moment in time, it's she because it's Miss Lauren. But she's been working with them, so she knows exactly what is needed for every single one of our students. So those were the questions that I thought I just mentioned based upon last time. But yeah.
So I guess it's a little different because we can ask questions now. So currently, your enrollment size as it is in a private structure, what is
Yes,
your
ma'am.
enrollment size? Just remind me of that, I'm sorry.
It's 25 students, ma'am.
Okay, for the,
Yes, just for that school. Yes.
okay. So as you move to a charter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you will now be open enrollment, so
Yes.
other students
Yes.
that maybe do not have dyslexia.
Yes, ma'am.
Will want to choose to come because,
Yes.
you know, as a parent,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hear you're focusing on literacy and my child needs to improve in those areas.
Yep.
Do you anticipate that you're going to have a much larger, and what does that look like when you move to that larger?
So at this
population?
moment in time, for the next year when we open, we restrict it to 50 kids because that
Okay.
building can only hold so many students,
Okay.
right? I think it was about 100 and something. So at maximum capacity is about 135. So first year we were opening 50, and it is an open enrollment charter school.
Mhm.
So if a parent does come and want to come and send a child there, even though they don't have symptoms of dyslexia, we're still going to go ahead and educate them regardless anyway. So, I mean, foreseeing 50 students is still not going to be a lot, being that the grade span is K to 8.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay. But you're having it at 50 for this first year? you
Yes,
said?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay. Let's see, Mr. Bacon, Dr. Bacon, sorry, do you have any questions?
However, I might say this. If there's a large demand, then we can look at it and see. But at this moment in time, anticipated amount is 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comment and then really one question. I was just looking at that OEP report. I mean, Marvel Lane, that is incredible. I want to shout out James Copeland, who was a U of
Yes.
A Impact Fellow
Yep.
who teaches all of the ELA
Yep.
grades 7 through 12 at
Yes,
Marvel
sir.
Lane High School.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you guys and the work that you all are doing over there. And that just gives me more confidence in what you'll do with this new school. Just really the question, I know we asked a lot of questions last time, but you all are comfortable with the accountability piece that will be in place, given that you'll just be operating like
Yes.
all of your other schools.
Yeah, so we had a deep conversation with the department, and they explained on what potentially could be the new accountability model. And so we looked at it and we were very comfortable with that. And on top of that, you know, we had a discussion, well, what happens because of the 2-year time frame between legislature, that if it does need to be revised, we have that time to get that revised during that time. So.
Ms. Newton, do you have any questions?
No.
Did she say? Okay. Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, just a couple, thank you.
Okay.
So the enrollment increase cap, or that you're requesting, enrollment cap increase, goes from 0 to 135 students?
Yes, so at this moment in time, the increase for that school is to 135. That, I mean, not the increase, but the size of that school is 135, sir.
Okay, so the private school currently has 135 students that will come into, I guess, to your charter. And is the building where the students are housed, is that already owned by you guys, or is that going to be a new facility for you?
No, it's not
We
owned
may
by.
have asked this last time, but I can't remember these details.
Could you say that question again? I couldn't quite hear the last bit.
Yeah, so the building where the students are currently being educated as a private school, is that building currently owned by the charter, by Friendship Aspire?
No, sir. It's owned by, it's owned by Here for Kids, and we're actually renting that facility at this moment in time.
Okay, so you plan to continue to rent that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there really is no, I guess the reason I'm asking these questions is and I guess I'm very disappointed. But before I say that, let me ask, do you guys have a budget other than the Friendship Aspire overall budget that would show the cost of this new school and all these kids coming, kind of a private school only budget so I could know what the impact of that would be on your overall Friendship Aspire budget?
So what we did was part of the packet was the actual overall, because us being one LEA, we wouldn't get one funding. So that was included with the school and with all the operating, with everything that that is anticipated into that school. Now, if you want something separate, we can definitely get that for you, sir.
I do. I've asked for that. We talked about it last time. I asked Dusty to give that to us before
Okay.
this meeting. And in my opinion, this is not a complete application without that budget. I mean, I think you guys are a great program, but I don't think we as a panel know what the cost, expenses, other factors are for you all taking on this program. I assume it will be fine, but we really should have that budget. And I just think this is an incomplete application without that.
Understood. We'll get that to you, sir.
Well, it's really not for me, it's for the panel. And I don't know, the other panel members may not feel as strongly as I do. I'm an accountant, so I like to see the numbers.
I wasn't a participant in the last meeting, but I do agree that's something that's significant enough for, well, it needs to be a part of that. That needs to be demonstrated and explain how you'll continue to operate and with such a large increase.
So I guess, and I don't know if this is some assistance we can get from the charter office, how would we address the concerns that we have on the panel that they aren't able to look at a budget right now? We know this, we've already asked them to come back.
Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to start. Daryl Smith, Assistant Commissioner for the department. Mr. Baldwin, we have looked at the budget as not as an individual budget, but as an LEA budget, and talking with Dr. Tran, and feel comfortable that they will be able to successfully create a sustainable model financially with the addition of this new school into their current charter. And so certainly we would recommend that we move forward. However, certainly, the importance of having an individual budget, we understand that, and we will certainly get that to you. But in previous discussions, we've had the discussions about what the fiscal impact would be into the overall charter, and feel comfortable that they will be able to not only be financially sustainable but viable for a longer period, even if without the anticipated budget enrollment, with the increased enrollment.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Let me read to you guys what's on the first page of the charter amendment request. This is documentation be included with all amendment requests. And the first bullet point, budget projections that include the costs associated with the amendment request and demonstrate that the approval of the request will not place an undue financial burden on the charter. And I think that's a very important item. And this panel has not seen what you're talking about. I don't know how we can vote without that. I don't know that we would be following our standards if we voted on that. And if you have that, I guess we could look at it at another time. But I think it really does need to be presented to the panel.
I know you can't see Mr. Baldwin, but they're having conversations right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Baldwin, I understand what you're saying, what you're asking. When we actually create the budget to send as part of this packet, again, it was included because that we have under one LEA we get all funding and all funnels to the same spot. At this moment in time, with 50 kids that we're opening for first year, we are very comfortable, with that operating, especially with the size that we have right now. And then as a charter network, we do have other staff and other resources that we can also utilize for the school, which won't put any undue burden on the charter itself.
You know, I do believe that, but I've asked twice for the budget, and I haven't been given it.
And my
it bothers
apologies.
me that we're not being transparent
Yes, sir.
in this process. This is an easy request to honor, or it would have been.
My apologies, Mr. Bowen, and that was oversight on my part.
So, if I can, Mr. Baldwin, if you don't mind if I step in and ask a question.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So it seems that we have reservations on moving forward with this request without being able to review a budget. Is there an opportunity for us to have a contingency to where that information is provided and we can come back and have that discussion, or but giving an opportunity to get some work moving forward? I think legal's coming forward. I'm just trying to see how we can resolve the issues that we have in front of us.
I'll give you your instructions for voting. You can vote to either issue a final decision today, you can take the matter under advisement until a future scheduled meeting, or you can defer the vote to approve or disapprove the charter application, or request in order to allow the charter school or applicant to make the modifications or receive technical assistance to correct the deficiencies. Each panel member who votes does so using the roll call sheet. And if a panel member determines that they are going to vote against, they need to state the reason for disapproval. Panel members and if they choose to abstain from the vote, they are not required to state a reason for abstaining from the vote, but should indicate an absentation by checking the appropriate box on the voting sheet. That's really what we can do right now. We need to vote and determine whether you want to do that right now. As far as, because they are only asking for a new facility under their current charter, and they're just asking for a new license for the facility. We didn't have any legal concerns ourselves because they're not asking for any new waivers or anything like that. So where there are no legal concerns, but your voting options are to make a final decision, take it under advisement, or vote to approve or disapprove.
So I would say, because the number of members we have here today, and it seems as if that if we did take it to a vote, that it would not pass. So I don't know if I'd want to do that, but possibly if we, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There is process for if there's a tie. If there's a tie without the chair's vote and the chair abstains, the motion is lost. When there is an affirmative more than the negative without the chair, the motion is adopted. If the chair abstains but the chair votes in the negative, then the result is tied and the motion is lost. I know that makes a lot of sense, but pretty much it depends on you, Chair.
Okay. Well, thanks.
and how much if someone abstains as well.
Sure. Yeah.
And let me ask a question while legal is still there. Well, they were there. But, so what is the process, since I'm leaning toward not supporting the request for the amendment, because it was specifically stated that the budget was a part of that. So what would happen if we deferred the decision, and how, because we're asking for something, or something's been asked for or requested that's very specific and very relevant and very impactful for the school operation. So if I made a motion to defer, would that mean that they could come back with the budget that we're anticipating or anticipated?
Well, I mean, like I said, you can take it under advisement until the next meeting, and you can take what they said under advisement until the next meeting, or you can defer the vote to allow them time to make modifications or receive technical assistance.
Okay. So make modifications, making modifications, would that include bringing a budget back?
That would be
Mr. Ball? Okay, great.
modifications.
Okay.
Darrell Smith, Assistant Commissioner. Thank you all for the diligence in making sure that we're doing things right and doing it well. May I make a recommendation that there's a contingency vote, so it's a vote to contingently approve this particular amendment, obviously contingent upon submission of the budget and the department's and your all's approval. Because obviously from this approval, it still needs to go to state board in a month, so we could contingently approve that and get it to you all within in a short time frame.
Okay. And so if we did that, then would the charter come back at the next meeting and have opportunity to discuss any questions at that time?
It would probably happen before the next door because it would be contingent that you're approving it based on some documentation being submitted. If the documentation is not submitted in the timeline that you all did, then at that point it would be disapproved, and then we'd have to go through this process again. If they submit the application or submit the budget in a timely manner based upon the recommendation of your timeliness, and you all look at it approved, then it would move on to the state board for final approval.
I'm sorry, if you do a contingency vote, you get to set a lot of those terms. You could set when you want the deadline and what paperwork you want on your
Did you
contingency
hear that?
vote.
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear.
Yes, ma'am. If you do a contingency vote, you could set the deadline, such as when you would like them to have the paperwork and what paperwork you would like.
Okay, then okay, so that happens. We have questions or we don't approve it, then what? I'm wondering, because I'm not clear on it. So we'll review it individually, or will we review it as a board meeting, or, so how does that work?
So, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, if you don't approve it today, then they'll have to come back and reapply.
She's
But-
saying if we approve it contingently,
Oh,
they
okay.
submit a budget Friday, and one of the 4 or 7 members has a concern, what does that look like?
I'm having problems
Well,
hearing
your
that.
approval is contingent based upon them meeting those terms. So if they do not meet those terms, then your approval would be.
So I think it goes back to my previous question that I had, that say, and I'm not saying this is what the motion needs to be, but saying that we say, okay, we approve today contingent upon being provided a budget that accounts for the addition of the campus, then in that contingent motion, if we say the charter must have this information to us for us to review and discuss by the next charter panel meeting, then the charter would come back to that meeting and be able to present their budget, so that if there are questions from the panel members, we could discuss it at that time. And if we're good with it, thumbs up. If we're not, then thumbs down. At that time, could we then say, we're not satisfied with what the budget is saying, and then we could say, no, we're not, or we're good with what the budget is saying, so the contingent would then go into effect?
Yeah, the department is comfortable with that. That would be a good process. That is
Well,
how it would work. You can set the terms of what you want them to do in your contingency vote.
So let me ask, I think the problem is timing, because it sounds like you guys need to get this sent off to the state board probably today or tomorrow, or just as soon as you can. So you'll send that to the state board. If we do the contingent approval, you'll send that to the state board with that contingent approval.
Can you make a motion before we,
No,
are
I'm
you
just-
making a
I'm-
motion?
And I think he's asking a
Oh, okay.
question. I don't think he's
I'm
making a
asking a
motion.
question.
Okay.
So this is the question. So if we contingently approve it right now, you're going to go ahead and send it to the state board with that contingent approval. But I do think that this panel needs to meet again and have a chance to to hear each panel member as we address removing that contingency. And so how would this panel be able to meet again before the state board acts in a month on this?
So basically, what we're asking, or what we're recommending at this point, is that you accept the budget that was submitted in the application and the fiscal impact that was there, contingent upon you looking at the individual school's budget and the impact that it would have on that. If you look at the budget, right, when we submit the new one, and you come back and you tell us individually, I have concerns, then that contingency goes away, and then we pull it off the state board agenda, and then we would come back and do this again next month. if you look at it, it all looks good to me based upon and it matches what the fiscal impact that's already been presented in the packet, then everything just moves forward as it was an approval.
But we would do that as individual members, so we would not have a charter panel meeting where we could talk about it between ourselves.
Correct, unless you've chosen to, if one of the members said that we have current concerns and we want to, and we'd like to pull it from the state board agenda for next month.
And
Can I just say something quick again? Again, the budget
please
that...
state your name and,
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
Tran, Superintendent.
okay.
The budget that we presented did include the 50 students that we will be having for the next school year. It does include all the operating expenses, includes the teachers and all that. So what we submitted to the CAP panel that you have at this moment in time includes everything that would actually operate for us for the next school year. So it's not a budget excluding that school if it was not going to go online. That budget includes everything for the next following school year. And again, it's with 50 students, so there's not a lot of pressure anyway. But on that budget itself, we include everything that we thought was needed in order to operate for the next school year. So that's why we sent it that way. So again, you know, it's 50 students that currently we have 25. Next year is for 50, and the cap for that entire school is 135. So it's not an overly large school with a large staff. It's not big, so.
What I think I hear from some of our panel members is that they would have comfort if
Yes.
they would be able to see the budget specifically for that campus. So I think that potentially if we could provide that information, and not saying again this is what the motion should be, but referring back to what was shared by the department, that if we could do that, allow panel members to have an opportunity to review that information, and if there are any concerns, then we would bring those forward, and if not, then it could potentially move forward. And I think that would then address the concerns, because as Mr. Baldwin said, he did request that a budget be provided to him at the last charter meeting, and for whatever reason that didn't happen, so I do want to honor that his request needed to be met. But if we could do that, then I think that that would resolve some of the concerns there. And if there's not any concerns, it would move forward and could be on the board agenda without concerns there as well.
Sure. I mean, again, at the end of the day, like I said, we spoke with the department. We sent the packet in. You know, might be an oversight. It is an oversight, but we can definitely do that.
So, I don't know, Mr. Baldwin and Ms. Newton, would that be acceptable?
That would be fine with me.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion that we need to have? Sorry. We have someone that's come to the microphone. I go, you guys, okay, can you guys see? Okay, yep.
Yes.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the panel. It looks like you're going to work this out, but if you're willing to accept the contingency, we will offer support to Friendship to make sure that they get the budget information to the department, make sure the department's had a chance to review that, inform you whether or not they've got a problem or not well in advance of the state board meeting. And if it's good with the department and with you, then probably no need to even come back. But if there's a problem, then obviously they could come back before they go to the state board.
Okay. And do you mind stating your name and?
I'm sorry, Scott Smith with the Public School Resource Center.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that additional information. We appreciate it. Okay. So then, again, back to the panel. Are there any more questions or any additional information that we need before we move forward?
I would just add for the Friendship Inspire folks, when you bring us back the budget, it would be a budget for the amendment request school, so the private school coming into Friendship Aspire would have a standalone budget. And then you would have the historical Friendship Aspire budget that you have originally submitted to this charter panel and the state board. And then you'd have the combined, and that way we can see the impact of the school coming in to you all. And, you know, if you look at it in the future and if you're planning to increase enrollment, one of probably the best practice would be to show that projection impact also as you work on this. I just want to make sure that when you come back, what you bring is going to resolve our concerns, and that we don't have to, you know, go through another process with that.
Okay. So seeing no more questions, and I don't see there any additional discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, is the motion that we conditionally approve this subject to receipt of the requested financial information?
Yes, Mr. Baldwin, I believe what we have gotten to is that we will allow the charter an opportunity to provide us a budget for review prior to the next board meeting. We would have an opportunity to review that, get back to the charter with any questions that we would have. If we don't have any questions and it all looks good, then it would move forward to board for their approval. The contingency would fall off. If we still have questions, and then we would, at that time, it's my understanding, have an opportunity to follow back up with the charter to resolve those questions, and then move forward from there. So, but yes, there would be a contingency placed on it. It probably would need to be a short time frame on that, so we would have an opportunity to review and get questions back and give them an opportunity to be able to move that forward. And then we would hopefully be able to provide to the department any particulars we want to make sure that we see. I noted that you had a few things you definitely wanted to see in the budget, so we would want to communicate that to the department so they could work with the charter.
Okay. So I would make a motion to approve this on a contingent basis, subject to receipt of the required budget information for the private school that's coming into the charter, Friendship Aspire charter, and then the consolidated charter with the private school and Friendship included, and to have that information presented back to this panel by February 14th, which is 2 weeks. Now that should not be a problem to have that back within 2 weeks.
Okay. I think you meant March 14th.
Yes, I'm sorry, March 14th.
Okay.
In that motion.
Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Ms. Newton that we accept the charter's request to add a campus contingent upon receiving a budget by March 14th, which outlines the addition, any associated cost, and any other questions that we have will be communicated with the department so that we can move forward. I'm trying to keep it all straight. So I have is that about wrap it up? Okay, sounds about right.
Madam Chairperson, may I make just one small request?
Okay.
The state board meeting meets on that same week, and so it would be preferable if we could maybe, the deadline would be pushed up to maybe even within a week or the next 3 or 4 days. I don't think, again, that's an inappropriate request. I think they have the information available. I think it's just a matter of us getting it to them. So it would be my recommendation to maybe request the deadline be Monday, March the 3rd. That would give you all a chance, give it to us, give you all a chance to review it, and then if the contingency is removed, to make sure it gets up on the state board in a timely manner.
Okay. If I could get the charter to confirm that that date is going to be agreeable.
Most definitely.
And your name again.
Tran.
Okay.
I would agree to amend my motion then to change that from March 14th to March 3rd.
Okay. So do you mind stating your motion again? I'm sorry.
No, I can do that, I think. I move that we approve on a conditional basis the charter request before us, subject to receipt of all necessary budgeting information no later than March the 3rd, 2025.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Again, I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Ms. Newton that we accept the charter's request to add an additional campus contingent upon them providing us a budget by Monday, March 3rd, 2025, that outlines and details the cost associated with adding that additional campus, after which time the charter panel will have an opportunity to review and provide feedback back to the charter on whether or not they agree with, accept their request moving forward.
And let me understand the process before we vote.
Okay.
So we meet again, or just individually give our recommendation.
Okay. So, okay, we have someone coming to the microphone. Okay.
Daryl Smith, Assistant Commissioner. So you will not necessarily meet again on this particular issue, provided that you feel comfortable with the budget that would be submitted to you on March the 3rd. If you look at that, though, and feel that and still feel uncomfortable or feel that there's some questions that still need to be addressed, the contingency basically will kind of will go into place, and therefore we will drop that off the state board agenda. So there will be no final approval by the state board, and then the charter will be required to come back to the March meeting and present their case again with whatever questions you all have. So if you look at it and you approve it and you say, yep, everything looks good, then everything moves forward as if this was an approved vote. If you look at it and see some half concerns, then it goes forward as this was a deferred vote or a disapproval vote.
Okay.
Well, y'all follow the recommendation of the panel, but I always look at things from my perspective in history of employment and depend a lot on the other members for their expertise in different fields. So I think we could benefit from having a discussion with Mr. Baldwin, who historically has been a banker or somewhere, had business in that area, and in terms of maybe more familiar with budgets than I am. So that would be lost, but that's, just for consideration.
Is there a way for the charter panel to meet on?
So legal's coming to the microphone. I think that would have to be like a called meeting of some sort. But
I
she's
just want to
gonna-
remind you of FOIA laws, that if there's two or more of you together, that you're under FOIA, and that's, you have to call a meeting, and that's a public meeting. So if you are going to meet together, it's a public meeting, it's under FOIA laws, and you will have to give notice to the public.
Yeah, my point while the general counsel's there would be, I think it, I think it would be possibly helpful if the charter panel met again, just like we're meeting now, the day after we get the information. And, I don't think it will take us long, 30 minutes or so to walk through that and make sure that we're all comfortable with it in a manner in which we can communicate with each other. The other way is, it precludes us from communicating with each other, which might not be the best approach. So if we want to meet on March the 4th, is that legal, and how would we go about doing that? And I guess maybe the first question is to the panel members: do you all feel the same way, or do you want to just go about it individually?
It is
I won't be available. I'll be doing some work out of state those days, and we can work it in, but we have difficulty trying to get together. Sometimes, what are the ramifications from the state or the charter to answer? What are the ramifications of this being done ASAP as opposed to waiting to the scheduled March meeting?
I mean, As the panel, you can choose to have a meeting, an additional meeting, if you'd like to, in addition to March. And we would put notice out to the public for you as the agency. And we could get you the room here, or you could, if you'd like that as well, we could set that up.
Again, the second part of the question is, what are the ramifications of not having this done by a specific date? So are we pushed with the schedule of approving based on another timeline that we're not aware of?
Talk about the ramifications.
That's a great question, Ms. Newton. Daryl Smith, Assistant Commissioner. I think that the ramifications at this point is that we're pushing everything back basically 2 more months. And so from a planning perspective for the school, planning perspective from the parents' perspective, as well as the marketing and enrollment enrollment marketing for the new charter that would potentially be in place, I think it puts a lot of that in jeopardy, because now the state board would not receive it until April, which then means the school wouldn't be able to start basically marketing and trying to recruit new students and make the change into more of a charter parameters that from the state until probably late in early May. And so it just pushes their planning back another couple of months. And so I think what we're asking for is if the potential for a called special meeting on March 4th or March 5th, whenever you all choose to have that. And we can, again, everybody can do it via Zoom, so there would be no need for us all to roll back in here. And you all can discuss this one issue. It'll be a one agenda item issue. And then at that point, you can make your official vote at that point, and we would carry it forward just like we would in a normal meeting.
So for your purposes, for board agenda, where it's that you're not having to have something on and then pull it off, when is that hard deadline for you guys?
Well, technically, because our meeting's gotten pushed back a week because of the weather, it's this week.
Okay.
But we did ask for so maybe we can certainly ask for some special kind of waiver, I guess, on getting that data in on beyond the deadline for the state board. Mm-hmm. If you do vote for a contingency, we can go ahead and kind of put it onto the state board, and then obviously, if in the special meeting, if you choose to vote against it and feel like there needs to be further discussion, we will just pull it off the state board, but just so they'll have the agenda, because the state board's obviously preparing for their board meeting and those types of things. So we just need to make sure that, I guess basically, like, we need to get this done as quickly as possible if we're gonna do the contingency and move forward. If you feel like you're not comfortable in that world, that's totally your call, and we'll push everything to March. But that's just gonna push their planning purposes and so back another couple of months. Which again, there's some issues there with just some enrollment management, as well as getting the students that are currently there, making sure they understand there's going to be a little different change in maybe the way something, as far as staffing also, because staffing for a private school versus staffing for a charter school is different. And so primarily the biggest ramification is just a planning ramification to make sure that they're ready going into the fall of 25.
So if we did have the call meeting within the next week, and I know that Ms. Newton said that she would not be available because of other commitments, but potentially, Ms. Newton, if you would be comfortable, once you have reviewed the budget, sharing any questions or concerns that you have, and that if we could set a meeting when we would have a quorum, that we could do a vote.
Correct. She could share the meeting.
Would that be acceptable to Ms. Newton and to the department?
It would be certainly fine with us. She could certainly share her thoughts with us. Obviously, couldn't share it with you all, but could share it with us. But then we could then present that, as part of her recommendation in a meeting.
I'm going to address that. So, under FOIA law, any communication, including emails, are considered a meeting. Phone calls, emails.
So not to us, but providing her.
So to the department's fine, but not amongst yourselves.
Yes, and that's why I said to the department, because I knew that we couldn't.
Yeah.
Be in the mix of that.
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
We run into that a lot. Sometimes people don't know that emails are.
It takes away from the exchange for me. I'm not, I think it's very helpful for me a lot of times to hear other members and their conclusions based on how they reviewed something. Again, especially around policy, around budgets and things like that. So I would be available on the 5th, and I'm not suggesting that you do it based on my availability.
Okay.
But I would want to, either way you do it is fine. I'll just leave it like that. Either way you do it is fine.
Okay. So I just thought you were maybe out that whole week, but if you have other days that week
No,
that
I'm
will
not gonna
work?
be out the whole
Okay,
week. I'll be back on Wednesday, but I'll be in travel or working in between from Sunday until Tuesday.
And currently, this room is available March 5th. I wanted to let you guys know that.
Wednesday, next Wednesday.
I like the idea of meeting as a panel
Okay,
on March the 5th, if we can all accommodate that.
so Mr. Baldwin, are you available on the 5th?
Yes, I am.
And you said you could Zoom in, maybe? Okay, so it seems like that Dr. Bacon could do 9 on the 5th. I guess I should check my own calendar. And it looks like that Mr. Baldwin and Ms. Newton are available on the 5th. Okay. So will that work for everyone? Yes. Okay. Okay, so I think we're at a better place now. So, Mr. Baldwin, do you want to try to do your motion again?
Yes, so the motion is to, on a conditional basis, approve the amendment request before us, and with the condition being receipt of all necessary budgetary information in a form satisfactory to the panel by March the 4th, or March the 3rd, and that would give the panel members 2 days to look at that information, and then this is not part of the motion, but we would then be able to meet on the 5th. So my motion would end with the establishment of the date that the financial information needs to come to us, which would be March the 3rd.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay. So a motion by Mr. Baldwin, a second by Ms. Newton, that we accept the charter's request to add an additional campus contingent upon being able to review their budget that includes the addition of the campus by March 3rd, which is Monday, March 3rd, 2005, after which point the charter panel will meet on Wednesday, March 5th, 2005 at 9 a.m. to review the budget, discuss any questions or concerns, and be able to address that before it goes to the board. If there are no questions or concerns, then the panel will be okay with the request moving forward to the board, and if not, then we will need to revisit at that time. So that's the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Ms. Newton, did you get a chance to vote?
Yeah, I said mine.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. So the motion passes. Okay, if you could please go to your voting sheets. Okay, Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, thank you. I vote to approve this amendment request on a conditional basis, subject to receiving all necessary budgetary information in satisfactory form no later than March 3rd, 2025.
Okay. Ms. Newton?
Voted for the motion, as it allows additional time to review, the budget.
Okay. Dr. Bacon?
I voted for the motion to approve the charter amendment with a contingency to submit a budget for the school by March 3rd for review by the panel, because I believe Friendship has exhibited strong academic progress and financial management, and trust they'll have the support of representatives from DESE and the Arkansas Public School Resource Center in this effort.
Okay. And I voted for. I support the motion to approve the charter's request to add a campus contingent upon review of the budget, which will be submitted by Monday, March 3rd, 2025, and reviewed by the panel on Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks. Next on our agenda, we have the KIP Delta status report. And Dr. Smith, would you please come forward and get us started with that presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you all. Back in November of 2024, KIP Delta was had to make a presentation before the state board based on some special ed concerns, and they were put on probation at that point. Several things have happened since that process, which I'll let the interim superintendent explain and go through the timeline of all those things. But I do want to present to you all the report from our special ed education department, kind of their report from where we are from in the last 3 months. So I will just read that. So this is from Jeff Adams from the Department of Special Education. It says KIP has a corrective action plan from fiscal monitoring that has been issued and is due by January 7th, 2026. Patricia Shearbutt, the OSE accounting coordinator, was at the LEA on 2/12 to assist in person with KIP to assist with the meeting certain cap requirements regarding including salary and benefit distribution for special education employees. The superintendent, special education director, and business manager were all in attendance for her visit. The team was able to connect with the KIP business manager, with the Arkansas Association of School Business Officials. The KIP business manager will now attend monthly TA sessions with other business managers. From a monitoring standpoint, KIP was issued a letter of finding with a corrective action plan on 2/18/25 from the program monitoring held in November of 2024. The areas of noncompliance were under the categories of evaluation, IEPs, and due process, summary of performance. The district has until 2/18/2026 to complete the corrective action plan. Danielle Rattler, the current LEA supervisor, has been very responsive to any calls, requests, and on-site verifications done thus far. Ms. Rattler asked for assistance with access to eFinance so she could review special education fiscal data during the on-site monitoring and still does not have access. Ms. Rattler attended the data summit on 2/6/25. The OSC team continues to meet regularly with KIP administration to address the long-standing noncompliance in state complaint C-2339. The team has also met with the team to discuss the findings in state complaint C-2522. KIP has related service providers in place, and they are working to provide compensatory education services for the multiple hours of missed related services. The compensatory education issue was one of the paramount concerns addressed during the State Board of Education meeting in November. I will say from a department standpoint that KIP has been very responsive to our requests. They've been very responsive to try to put things back in order as ways they should be. They have a new interim superintendent and have a new chair, which you will hear from in just a few minutes. But from our perspective, they're working hard to right the ship. And unfortunately, they were kind of put into a kind of a big mess. But now they are working and they are working diligently with their staff and with each other and with their board to improve so that they can, get back on good standing with the department and with this Office of Special Education. So at this time, I would invite the interim superintendent and board chair to report.
Okay. As you're coming forward, I just want to remind you that as you're talking, please state your name and your position each time you speak. All right, thank you. They didn't say that on here. Did they need to be sworn in? No.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is George Cotton Sr., and I am currently the chairman of the board for KIPP Delta, and also have the honor of serving as vice chancellor for institutional advancement at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And of course, KIPP Delta has campuses in Helena, West Helena, and in Blythesville. On behalf of the board and most certainly the students in our schools, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present and give you this update today. Of course, the last time we were here, we were facing significant challenges, and rightfully, as I said then, the board called us out, and I am not being hyperbolic when I say that it is a wake-up call that, quite frankly, I think we were very successful in answering, and hopefully from today you will see that we're taking significant steps to address a lot of that. I also want to say on behalf of the board that we've been very aggressive, and I think you will see some of that this morning, in challenging both the staff and the board to take your charge very seriously, and we have done that. In addition to more regular meetings and conversations with the board, we've also had the opportunity to challenge our team, Executive Director Smith, and you will see that today, to also take some bold and aggressive steps to not just right the ship, but to regain the confidence of this board. And I think you will see that we've done some of that. We're not out of the woods yet, but I think we're headed in the right direction, and that the path that we're on now will get us back to a point that allows KIPP to be the type of school that most certainly this state and this board will be proud of. And at this time, I introduce Mr. Kevin Smith, our interim executive director, to update and review our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kevin Smith. I'm interim executive director of KIPP Delta Schools. Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Smith and staff and others, I want to thank you for the opportunity to do this update. And if you don't mind, because they did most of the hard work, I'd like to ask my staff just to all stand up right now so y'all can see who they are. And also Sandra Doggett, who's with Arkansas Public School Resource Center, and her staff, and Scott was here earlier. Scott Smith, he had to leave. And Rebecca Worsham, our attorney, is back there, and I hope I didn't forget anybody. But I don't take credit for this. I give them the credit. They've worked really hard. And keep in mind, this report here is a little dated because of this delay in the meeting, so it's really a little dated. We sent out some updates on some of that we'll get to. Also, we've had, since November, which was our lowest point, we've had Thanksgiving, Christmas, school holidays, and winter weather days. So the stuff that you're about to see, while we have a long way to go, we have done a lot of hard work, and that's been done in that period of time, which has been challenging. Since this is about, in part, a competition, I'm going to go off script really quickly. I know I'm on the time frame. To say that what was mentioned earlier, I know they just left the room, by my friends at Friendship, Elaine Marvel, which is also Phillips County, which is where Delta Schools' flagship is in Helena. While they may have come in first with this recent announcement that came out overnight, we are only 3 schools behind. And we got them in our sights, so we're headed for them. Our middle school had some of the best growth according to the University of Arkansas. So we were excited about that news as well. So I wanted to, and I'm not going to read these slides. I also don't want to go too fast to make sure everybody has a chance to look at those and absorb them, but I want to allow time for questions also. So if we could, I haven't done this before, so this is what I do here. So this is, like I said, I'm not going to read them. I'll give you time to look over and ask that you do read them at some point, because we are proud of a lot of this and we have worked hard. We're not proud of everything in this, but we have to explain why we're here in the first place, and that we have a long way to go, but we are proud of a lot of it. So this kind of tells you how we did get here on a timeline that started in November, when our accreditation was put on probation for the reasons that Dr. Smith just gave. and some of the headlines surrounding that. And so this is the biggest, of course, as our chairman pointed out, our board of directors and our governance issues were the most important, and they took swift action. And as a matter of fact, even a little before the November meeting, you can see where the board was beginning to see issues that it had not seen before. And so it actually started about a month before the meeting here in November. And then again, you can see that the board has gone to monthly meetings and quarterly in-person meetings every quarter, from quarterly only meetings and almost exclusively virtual. You can see that one of the issues, our policy procedures manual has been outdated, and the state law says you have to update it every year. There were many compliance issues. I'll just say that. This is one of the most important because it affects so many others. We're anticipated to finally approve our new one in March. But also SPED procedures. One of the things that we don't want anyone to be labeled SPED who isn't. We don't want someone who should be who isn't getting those services. So we also introduced some processes there for who should be SPED, who should be 504, and so forth, who should get interventions, and the rest here. January 10th, we got some of our first good news that our middle year literacy scores, we were taken off the bad list, but as you can see here, that's not good enough. We want to be on the best list. But this was something that we were happy to see. And I'm going to go through these quickly. These are Dibble's middle of the year scores compared to the beginning of the year scores, and they're compared with other KIP regions. There are 20, actually I think that should be 29 KIP regions, 278 KIP schools. We are one region. And those regions are from, sea to shining sea, but see they're all over the country, east and west, north and south. And we're proud that we did better than many of them, and especially when it came to growth. We had incredible growth, which is also what the University of Arkansas report just said, from the beginning of the year on this data. I'm not going to go I'm going to kind of fast through these. But I hope you'll have a chance to look at those. If I'm going too fast, just tell me. So, of course, our accreditation. When we started in November, December, this pie chart only had one green piece of pie. The rest was in red. And we have worked as a team extremely hard to keep this completely green. And this is from the DESE website. So, and that is a daily effort. I think even yesterday we had to do something to make sure we stayed in compliance to keep this thing green. And this is a big, sort of big picture thing. And on the right, you can see some of the errors that we've had to fix. So this is one of the things, this is a very good tool for those of you who do that at DESE. We use it daily. And I was wanting to get a before and after that showed the green and the red before we started, but we didn't get a screenshot or anything, so I can't do that. But it does look like this now. And, it represents a lot of hard work and ongoing hard work. A lot of words here. I hope you read this because this is a specific answer to some of the reasons we got here while we're on probation. And I'll really quickly, there have been essentially 3 complaints by parents about the IEPs not being met. All 3 of those have been successfully dealt with. And that's what this is basically saying. The 4th complaint deals with compensatory services. And as was already noted by Dr. Smith, that was a very big problem because we had not entered any contracts for related services in SPED for our IEP students who required them, even as early as October. And even in late December, we were still struggling to get those contracts and providers in place. And so that has been a huge challenge. But we have dealt with the other 3 parent issues, as you can see here. The third one, the second one was withdrawn before it was completed, I believe. I'm not reading it either, but the third one, the parent has tried to withdraw it, but I think it's gone past that process, but has sent a letter in requesting or letting us the state know that she's happy and the parent's happy and the child is getting those services. And the first one is also getting at-home services, and it's the same situation. So let's look at compensatory related services. So this is actually outdated now, and we handed out a more recent, and I'm hoping those virtually we're able to get this in time. Our latest compensatory, you'll see numbers are much better. Speech, not that this was, I mean, this is not good, but it looks good to me because in November, these were 0. And we had accumulated these top numbers here, and so we are trying to play catch up in these categories. Speech therapy has been the most challenging. If you look at the recent handout, you'll see, though, how much progress we've made. Instead of 85.4 for speech therapy, we're at 116.8 just since we submitted this slide. That's how much more we have done. And the same for the other categories. So at that rate, we feel confident, even though we have a year to do it, that we can get our compensatory services done by the end of the summer. We hope occupational therapy will be done pretty quickly, and physical therapy by the end of the year, and speech therapy before the beginning of the next year. And we, unlike this year, will have those services in place. These are the ongoing hours that are required concurrently as we go forward. And as you know, we can't do the catch-up work while they're supposed to be getting the work that they're supposed to be getting on an ongoing basis. So the biggest challenge with compensatory at this point is that you have to do it in those time frames when you're not allowed to, when you are allowed to do it. You can't do it because you're just going to continue to get behind. So this shows you that we are where we need to be, and that is also that chart. Newer chart was handed out that shows our completed ongoing hours, and we look good there. Finances, which this is a chart that kind of shows you projections. Again, I don't want to go too fast, but I don't want to go too slow either. And we'll be glad to take questions later if we have time. But our biggest goal coming in sort of mid-year has been to save and save money without sacrificing academics, mostly overhead and administrative costs. And most of the decisions that I've made or we've made have come down to what can't not wait until next year, what must be done now, and what can wait that we can take a little bit longer view of. And that's pretty much the daily decision, is what has to be done now that can't wait and what can. And so as a result of that, and this is a very conservative number, and this does not represent teachers. So if we have an opening for a teacher, we're not counting, and it's not filled yet, we're not counting that as savings. This is exclusively administrative overhead and contractual work. And this is very conservative at about $95,000 a month that we've been saving. This represents 1 month, basically January. A lot of the things we did in November, which we did immediately, did not take effect until January 1st. So January is really the best month to look at, but we started saving money immediately. And we are continuing to make those hard decisions. But some decisions that should have already been made. The challenge is we have a half a year, not a whole year. So if you, for example, a salary is based on mostly 12 months, right? We don't have 12 months. It may sound like we're saving a lot of money on a contract. It's 12 months, but we're actually only saving 6 months or 5 months of that. So we have to compress that savings to the point where we are, and our goal is to be basically balanced by the end of June and not have to rely on any other unusual things like loans or have any deficit spending or anything like that. We also had an ugly audit that came around the same time as the November and December meetings. And again, I'm not going to read them, but this, we've taken some dramatic actions on these. The Arkansas Public School Resource Center has, I didn't mention, has also been a key player on SPED issues, helping us. We've contracted with them on budget and finance also. And the biggest issue was, well, there are a lot of issues, but one of the biggest issues was not entering our deposits in e-finance. And so they've been very good at helping us get caught up on all the entries. Most of these were data entry problems, coding problems, and also poor judgment in terms of some things. But as far as the audit goes, most of that has been coding issues, and they're helping us get caught up on that. So as I said, I didn't want to go too fast, but I hope I did allow for some questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. So we'll now go into any questions we have from the panel. So Dr. Bacon?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm trying to make sense of looking forward with your organization, the board oversight at the executive director level, administrative oversight has clearly been missing for quite some time. I'm reading here, so you're switching to the bylaws to require monthly board meetings, quarterly in person. Is your board made up of local people, national, a combination? I'd just be curious to get a sense of how we make sure as you move forward that the board is getting the information they need and asking the right questions. So that these issues that have been there in the past are caught early.
Certainly. No, the board currently is comprised of local members of both the Blythesville and Helena, West Helena, Phillips County community. We don't have the national representation, but one of the things we have committed ourselves to doing, and I think we spoke to this last time, is we will be increasing the size of the board to bring on more diverse opinions. We need more educators at the board level. We already have parent representation, but we need parent representation. But we don't have the national representation that would be helpful. And we also could use more representation from people who are not necessarily educational stakeholders, if you will, but who are not parents, if you will, but are stakeholders. So it's not as broad as we would like for it to be. We've also committed ourselves to have a conversation with the community in Blythesville and in Phillips County to make sure that we've heard from those members of the community.
Okay. And I guess I understood when you introduced sort of top-level admin team, there's has been a lot of turnover. The things I'm reading here, some of these audit findings, I mean, as you said, not entering deposits properly. My head is about to explode thinking about how you got to that point. I just sort of talk about the team and what that skill set looks like moving forward, that we know that those and I know you said APSRC has been contracted for bookkeeping, and that's phenomenal.
No, I think that's the question and an excellent question, and a big part of that was board oversight. I just want to say, since he was here, one reason that they made Mr. Cotton chairman is because he was the guy asking those questions all that time and trying to get more accountability, and so they made him chairman because he turned out to be right. And so I think the board has, as I said, taken swift action. On finances, on the audit, and the auditing question here was 23. And that was late because they were late on deadlines. The finance team basically left, and the then director did not take the actions, I guess, in the board to make sure that those things were being entered. There wasn't adequate oversight or controls left in place. They were sort of removed even. And so what we've tried to do since Chairman Cotton and I have been there is to restore that. So what we have now is we have a finance director, and we just signed a contract with someone who used to be on that finance team, who is a contract person who's one of her jobs is to make sure that we're compliant with audit going forward, so that even if we're not going to be there where we want to be for for when they ask us, are you doing these control things now, we can say yes. And her job is to make sure we're helping to stay compliant. And then, of course, Denise Porter at the Arkansas Public School Resource Center is the main staff person there, and we've contracted with them, and they've done an outstanding job. We were so far behind, I want to say 18 months or something like that in terms of entries. We're still getting caught up, but we're caught up as of December 24. So we're not there yet, but we have made great strides. So to answer your question, we have a finance team in place. That is our finance team. Well, we also have another staff person who is now, rather than contracting with a CPA firm, which was one option, and we're trying to save money at the same time, we paid another staff person a little bit more to do accounts payable and all of those kinds of things, to try and get it back. And one of my former lives, I was chairman of the legislative audit. I was on legislative audit for 10 years. I've seen an awful lot of audits, and I understand when I read one, one of my goals is to make sure, I don't know about this time because it's going to be 24, but for the time I'm here, that we have a clean audit. That's definitely our goal. I don't know if that answers. I hope that answers.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say, which I think is really the most important part, is, we got to this point. Maybe there was the right questions weren't being asked, or maybe they were a quiet voice in the darkness. But I mean, and understand how important this financial piece, getting that house in order, is. Your board chair, and I would be curious from APSRC's support or other organizations, school board associations. Are you doing any new training for your school board about sort of what to look for and what questions to ask, so that we make sure that we don't go, something happened 18 months ago and we just discovered it as being a problem?
Yes to all of those. And let me also say that one of the things that I was really proud of, as you saw from the slide, I had been on the board, but to be frank, one of the delicate dances, and I don't have to tell people who sit on the board, but one of the delicate dances you play when you sit on the board is to try not to be too intrusive. But I think, as I said last time, one of our challenges is that, while we may not have been asleep at the switch, we were kind of nodding as a board. Not only has this board committed itself to training, but one of the things I was most proud of is when they sent the list out indicating the board trainings that we were required to take. Every board member exceeded the number of required hours that we were supposed to take because they understood the need to do it. The other thing is we have committed ourselves to taking a look at professional development training that board members need to have. We're lay people. All of us have full-time jobs, but we've also committed ourselves to doing that. We've committed ourselves to delving into the policy and procedure manuals. But the other part of it, now again, being just frank, we also have accepted the responsibility for being a board member to help generate resources, bring an additional professional integrity to the board, and also understanding that while staff might be the ones that we hire, I mean, this is our only employee, he hires everyone else, but we have a responsibility to the community. I grew up in Helena, West Helena. It was a long time ago when I was there, but the long answer is yes, we're committing ourselves to being not only a better board, but a more informed board. Mr. Smith knows that we're going to be asking tough questions. He has the unenviable task of knowing now that we're going to be tougher on him because we should have been tougher before now. Also, we have new members at the board and new members who are going to be coming to the board who I think represent folk who don't have any trouble asking tough questions. We've got some new board members who ask a whole lot of questions, and I think that's good.
Right. I think at this point, in the perfect world, the board is able to filter through executive director and
Yes.
trust. At this point, I think the board needs to be asking a lot of questions,
Yes.
so I appreciate
Well, we will be.
commitment to that.
Thank you.
The only other question I had was just sort of back to switching to the special ed piece, since I know that's been a big deal here. No issues finding the personnel, the therapists, the contractors you need to fill these needs for your students?
I wouldn't say there are no issues.
Okay.
Speech therapists are very difficult to find, and having enough. The problem, of course, is you got to catch up while at the same time not
Sure.
getting behind. You know, right? And speech therapy has been our most challenging thing there. But I will also say that there's no excuse, in my opinion, for how we got those services were available. Our challenge is to play catch up. You know, if we had done it correctly, I don't think it would have been. I think it could have been addressed. Yes, there are issues. We need more speech therapists for sure, and probably that's true everywhere. But so that's challenging. And I wanted to go back real quick to say one of the new person that we contracted with, who used to be with the finance team, one of her jobs is to do training for staff and board, and that's also one of the audit items that they recommend. So we want to check that box.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Thank you.
I don't know if Ms. Newton is still on or not. Don't look like it. Mr. Baldwin, do you have any questions?
Well, I guess probably not any questions, but maybe some encouragement. And I appreciate the questions that have already been asked. I think those covered some of the areas that I had some uncertainty on. But you know, turning around a school is not an easy thing, and it doesn't happen overnight. I appreciate the report that you all have provided, and I appreciate the fact that the board is engaged at a different level than they have been. And also I think it's very valuable, and I commend you all for having APSRC involved in this, and they should walk side by side with you for quite a few years to help you as you go through this. KIPP Delta is one of our shining star charter schools back in the day, and it needs to be that way again, and it should be. It has that potential, and I would encourage you guys to work hard and get it to that point. And it sounds like you are. I think your report was good and thoughtful, and nothing is easy in education, but the value of accomplishing this is very important for the communities that you serve. So I guess I just encourage you and charge you to fulfill that responsibility for these communities. And I'm sure we'll be talking again at some point in time, and I look forward to seeing, a lot of green everywhere. It looks like there's a lot more green than there used to be. So that's encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin, and I agree with all of that. And also thank you because I seem to recall you were early supporter of KIPP Delta, and I said at the state board meeting at one time when my daughters graduated from KIPP Delta, it was ranked by U.S. News and World Report as the 4th best high school in Arkansas, and a few years before that, it was the 2nd ranked. We are unfortunately on the other side of that, and our goal is to get back to that. And somebody who knows more than I do said that it takes about 5 years or so to get a school where you want it to be, and it takes about that long to destroy one. And we have that. My daughters graduated about 5 or 6 years ago, said that school has been in trouble for a while, and that the accountability measures that the state had in place served as a wake-up call. And literally, and I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not just saying this to pander or anything, it literally saved the school. Even another month, and it might have been too late. So I can't exaggerate that enough. But it was in time. It might have been the 11th hour, but it was in time, and we have a long way to go. But I hope today we've shown that we are, as long as we don't slack up, we can get there. And I believe, Mr. Baldwin, we can get back to that school you remember.
Okay, thank you. All right. See no other questions. Dr. Smith, do you have a comment?
I just want to say.
Okay.
I just want to reiterate one time. Obviously, they've got a long ways to go, and you've seen that in the report. But also, I want to commend Mr. Smith, Mr. Cotton, and their staff for the urgency and the seriousness that they have taken, in trying to turn this thing around. It was taken, as you can tell, with a sense of urgency and with the sense of a desire to make this school another high quality school and bringing it back to where it was, and even better. And so I just want to kind of publicly just commend them for the effort that they've done, have shown so far. And even in the condensed time frame that they've had, with the holidays and the weather and all those types of things, they've worked really hard to make things right. And they're moving the ship back in the right direction. So I just want to make sure that we publicly that we commend you and say you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. We got a long ways to go, but you're doing a great job. So anyway.
Thank you for
Madam
this.
Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Thank
Uh, Just wanted to say, from a historical perspective, I was there then. I'm here now with the state board, initially now with charter authorizing panel, and I remember that the pride that was elicited in the KIPP Delta and the school and the community, and it was almost a movement as opposed to a school starting. It was an opportunity to highlight what the proper resources could do, what investment from foundations and individuals in the community could do, and what pride the children presented themselves with. I've worked with both Mr. Cotton and Senator Smith before, and I have every confidence, not to say that you're the only people that can do it, but I do think these two gentlemen bring to the table, and of course they're going to need the support of the department, but they bring to the table a set of expertise that will, and dedication and commitment and knowledge that will allow this school to come back into prominence, not for the negative things, but for all the positive things that were happening before.
Thank you very much for those comments. We won't let you down.
I believe that.
Well, thank you both, and thank your team for coming in today and sharing information. I will just echo the sentiments of all of our other panel members that we are looking forward to you guys putting in the hard work to turning things around. We realize that, especially in that part of the state, that we have to do what we need to do to make sure that our students are successful. And especially when we had some concerns with special education, that's a whole nother layer that we've got to make sure we get that right. And so we have the correct people in place. Extremely excited to see that get turned around, and whatever we need to do to help to support that, just let us know.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you,
Thanks.
members.
Thanks. Okay, so I see no further business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Dr. Bacon. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned.